We're bringing in CBS News senior business and tech correspondent Jo Ling Kent. Jo Ling, let's talk about one bit of data that caught my eye today from the National Realtors Association about a decline in home sales. We'll get to a couple other topics related to tariffs, but what does that mean to you? What does that suggest possibly about the state of the U.S. economy?
Yeah, existing home sales were down almost 6%. That's the worst in more than 2 years. And so what we're seeing is sort of a slowdown, which indicates possibly uncertainty. Obviously, interest rates remain very high for those who are trying to enter the market or, move from home to home. So it's certainly something to watch, but it is indeed the biggest decrease that we've seen since 2023. But this is a month-to-month decrease, and going into that critical summer home season, it's an indicator of how homeowners might be feeling about the economy right now and feeling in terms of how they can move, where they can move, and what they can afford.
And Jo Ling Kent helpfully mentioned this a moment ago, that for the last 2 days, stock market is up. We say this all the time on this program. The stock market is not the economy, but It is a kind of momentary verdict. And my question to you is, and it's hard to answer, is do we have a sense of why the last couple of days the market has been a little bit more enthusiastic? Is that simply a kind of attitude or a sense that investors have that things are more positive than actual announcements or hard data?
Yeah, you're right to point out this relief rally that we've seen over the past few days. Now, look, we have to point out the facts here. If you look at the S&P 500 since that quote-unquote Liberation Day, April 2nd, when Trump announced all of these tariffs, we do know that the S&P 500 is down 3.3% since then. So while we are seeing these gains driven by mostly these major tech stocks, we're still down. So in a noteworthy direction here of the S&P 500, when you look at the Dow, also down 5% since this quote-unquote Liberation Day, as President Trump has been calling it. So a lot of investors may feel good over the past couple of days as they search for signs of progress here when it comes to trade deals, or a sense of maybe a little bit less uncertainty, if you will. And there has been some potential good news from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent regarding a possible deal with South Korea. That's obviously very important to companies here, tech companies here in the United States. But even though these gains, they're driven by what? NVIDIA, Tesla, Meta, Amazon, Microsoft, all higher. You see some earnings reports coming in, positive. Alphabet reporting pretty positive earnings today. That all bringing the market up. But again, if you look back just over the past few weeks, it doesn't necessarily cancel out or make up for the major declines we've seen in the S&P and the Dow.
And Jo Ling, before I let you go, let's talk about gas and eggs. The President said today in 2 states, gas is going for $1.98. The lowest price I could find, according to AAA, is $2.68 in Mississippi, and the average gasoline price in America is $3.17. He also said eggs have gone down 87%. The wholesale price of eggs has gone down 38%, but the retail price hasn't budged nearly that much. Help us understand that.
Major, you're in the details, and I love it. That is where the truth is. If you take a look at those numbers, you're not wrong. And if you look at egg prices, let's start with that first. So you see what President Trump is posting right there, down 87%. But when you talk about egg prices, they're actually up 60% year over year as of March. And then if you look at the February to March movement, it's up 1.2%. That is coming from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's the reality for egg prices. When you look at gasoline right now, we actually see it's gone up 5% for a gallon of regular on average, according to AAA. So up from $3.12 to $3.17. But when you also look at overall year-over-year gas prices, down about 10% overall if you compare to 12 months ago, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So that's the fact of the matter. That's probably what you're seeing when you're hitting the grocery store or ordering your online groceries. That's what we know about egg and gas prices.
Breaking it down as always, Jo Ling Kent, thank you so very much.
Thanks, Major.